Well, here we are, back at the Skeptics National Convention. It's Graham Little, me Peter Pope from www.fightpharmacorruption.com. I thought the Skeptics Convention would be an ideal spot to get some allies to fight pharmaceutical corruption, but unfortunately I've been banned on the weekend conference. I did attend a full-day workshop, Skeptics workshop on Friday, 8 hours with 5 of the international experts. So I have been fortunate in that regard that I have been able to be trained to be a better skeptic, and my goal is to get the 2017 Skeptics of the Year award for my opinion that the mainstream medicine should be made accountable to the Cochrane gold standard evidence for health treatments. At the moment, we've got a situation where the Cochrane evidence is being applied in a sceptical way only in relation to the natural health professionals. And my view is that I have no problem with that. If that's the way some people would like to use the Cochrane evidence, and that's fine. My view is that it should be applied equally and fairly across the board, and that's a fairly normal sceptical approach I've got. So I'm going to look at the Cochrane website for you and just explain a little bit more about the Cochrane evidence, why it's being used against natural therapists and what it says about mainstream. So here we have the website called Cochrane.org. It's got a very good public summary and very well set out. So what Cochrane seeks to do, it exists so that healthcare decisions get better. During the past 20 years, Cochrane has helped to transform the way health decisions are made. We gather and summarise the best evidence from research to help you make informed choices about treatment. Who is Cochrane for? Cochrane is for anyone who is interested in using high-quality information to make health decisions, whether you are a doctor or a nurse, a patient or a carer, a researcher or a funder. Cochrane evidence provides a powerful tool to enhance your healthcare knowledge and decision-making. Everyone has a role, so please get involved. Now, there's a section here at the top called Our Evidence. So let's go to Our Evidence and let's start looking at some of the Cochrane evidence. And it's got a section immediately that says you can either go to the full list of evidence, which is something like I think it's 9,600 last I looked at, or the most popular Cochrane evidence. Okay, so there's quite a few listed there under the popular ones. So let's have a bit of a look while we're here at the Skeptics Convention. I'm very sceptical about cherry-picking medical studies. So let's just apply it in the same way to natural as we do to the mainstream medicine. Now, this first one they've chosen is a 2014 April study. Authors are Moore, Whiffen, Derry, Toll. It's on pain, palliative and supportive care. Quickest thing I do when I'm looking at the Cochranes is I go down to the author's conclusions. This one in particular says there was no top-tier evidence that was unequivocally unbiased. Second-tier evidence with potentially important residual biases showed that gabapentin at doses of 1,200 milligrams or more was effective for some people with some painful neuropathic pain conditions. The outcome of at least 50% pain intensity reduction is regarded as a useful outcome of treatment by patients, and the achievement of this degree of pain relief is associated with important beneficial effects on sleep interference, fatigue and depression, as well as quality of life, function and work. About 35% achieved this degree of pain relief with gabapentin compared with 21% for placebo. So that's the result coming through on the Cochrane. Over half of those treated, that's a majority with this drug, will not have worthwhile pain relief. Results may vary between different neuropathic pain conditions, and the amount of evidence for gabapentin in neuropathic pain conditions, except post-herpetic neuralgia and painful diabetic neuropathy and in fibromyalgia, is very limited according to Cochrane. The levels of efficacy found are consistent with those found for other drug therapies and painful diabetic neuropathy. So that's the first one. So that's not too bad. There's some evidence that it is helpful. And let's go back to the second one. Vitamin E supplementation in pregnancy. And the author concludes the data do not support routine vitamin E supplementation in combination with other supplements for the prevention of stillbirth, neonatal death, preterm birth, pre-eclampsia, preterm or term or fetal growth. Further research is required to elucidate the possible role of vitamin E in the prevention of placental abruption. There was no convincing evidence that vitamin E supplementation in combination with other supplements results in other important benefits or harms. Okay, so we've done the first two. So Cochrane is a useful way of anybody, a consumer, looking at the treatments they've been given, whether it's a natural treatment or a mainstream medical treatment. I'm in favour of anybody doing this and just being informed. This is the peak global evidence base. It's done independently. It does systematic trials of all the evidence, and it's generally regarded as the best available evidence. The next one we're going to look at is vaccines to prevent influenza in healthy adults. Let's see what it says about influenza in healthy adults, because we're now giving it to pregnant women as well. And there's a lot of advertising on the TV that we should be doing it every year from 6 months of age right through to we die. And in fact, my mother was given a vaccine, influenza, at 90, just before she went into palliative care and passed away this year. So here's the Cochrane for vaccines to prevent influenza in healthy adults. It's published on the 13th of March 2014. Here are its authors, and it's part of a primary review group called Acute Respiratory Infections. And they evaluated the effect of immunisation with influenza vaccines on preventing influenza A or B for efficacy, and then its consequences, effectiveness, and determine whether exposure to influenza vaccines is associated with serious or severe harms. Target populations were healthy adults, including pregnant women and newborns. So let's have a look at what it concluded. Authors' conclusions. Influenza vaccines have a very modest effect in reducing influenza symptoms and working days lost in the general population, including pregnant women. No evidence of association between influenza vaccination and serious adverse events was found in the comparative studies considered in the review. This review includes 90 studies, 24 of which were funded totally or partially by the industry. Out of the 48 RCTs, 17 were industry funded. So that's what we read there. Now, what about the quality of the evidence? The real impact of biases in these trials could not be determined for about 70% of the included studies. For example, insufficient reporting details, very different scores among the items evaluated. About 20% of the included studies, mainly cohorts, had a high risk of bias. Just under 10% had good methodological quality, only 10%. So that's an interesting Cochrane, because we're now telling pregnant women that we should be having influenza vaccination and then having it every year of our life. And I don't want to go into the contents of influenza vaccines or the fact that it's the majority of the compensation claims in the US for the unavoidable adverse effects of vaccines across the board. Influenza is number one. But there we have a Cochrane that says only less than 10% had good methodological quality. So we're talking about the 90%, 90% or more are being very poor quality studies, and you're going to put these in your body every year the rest of your life, subsidised by taxpayers. So that's an interesting one. Now this study, what I'm doing here at the convention for all the skeptics, I'm skeptical about a lot of things that happen, and I'm entitled to my views in that regard, as are all the skeptics here if they're skeptical of natural. So we're going to look at the next one, which is a Cochrane study on amitriptyline for neuropathic pain in adults.
This is a private function and you're required to leave, please.
Well, I've got a ticket. I haven't been refunded. I have. I had a booking. I paid the money. It's gone off my credit card. I'm not interfering with anyone. I'm not taping anybody. I'm going through the Cochrane standard of evidence, Facebook Live at the moment, okay? I'm not going to put this on you. I'm not going to put it on you. I'm not going to film you. I'm going through Cochrane evidence, which is being used, right?
You've been refunded according to my...
I haven't been refunded. There's no money in my system. I've not been refunded, and I will continue with the Facebook Live here. I'm not interfering with anyone. I'm not asking any questions, and I'm not filming anyone, and I promise you I'm not, because I don't want to even reveal who you are. I know who you are, and I'm not going to even say on live who I'm now talking to, okay? Because I'm not breaching any code of conduct here. I'm breaching no code of conduct. It's a public event. It was open to the public. I bought a public ticket. I've been not refunded.
Sir, we can make this easier. We are going to call security.
Well, I have got a booking for this. I'm not interfering with anybody.
Because we are about to call security. So it would be a lot easier for you to just willingly leave, rather than escalate the situation.
Where does the function finish then? Where can I? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going all afternoon on the Cochrane reviews on Facebook Live. Yeah, well, I want to be inside because it's easier. If I just move further down, would that be okay?
No, you need to leave the building.
Well, your functions that I have a booking. I paid my money.
Sorry, your money has been refunded, and you do
It hasn't been refunded. It's not in my card. All right, just give me 5 minutes. I'll finish up here. I would not film anybody.
You have been asked earlier. We are just now giving you the courtesy notice that perhaps you would just like to leave and not escalate the situation while we call security.
I'm going to show you what the Friends of Science in Medicine said about Cochrane trying to ban acupuncture. Over the past 10 to 15 years, the Cochrane collaboration has addressed the efficacy of acupuncture for many of these indications. When clinical trials have been performed properly, lack or insufficient evidence of effectiveness for acupuncture was demonstrated in most cases. The following is a list, not exhaustive, of trials. Now, here are all the Cochrane reviews that are being used by the Friends of Science in Medicine against the use of acupuncture. So all I'm saying is this should be very, very common material that for all conditions, not just the Friends of Science in Medicine, or not just Ken Harvey, who gave his talk about whack-a-mole, and Ken's just walked past me right now, and I'm not going to film Ken. This is just a level playing field. I'm after a level playing field in respect for natural practitioners. The president is here. I'm asking for respect for him. He's got every right to be the president of the Skeptics. This is no problem on my head. I'm just talking about a level playing field. If we're going to be accounting for people and being skeptical, let's use the same material over and over that we want one part of society to be challenged by, and we challenge the other half. It's level, it's fair, it's natural justice, it's not discrimination. It's being skeptical of everything you're being told about, including being a skeptic. So I am a skeptic even of the Cochrane trials that are being done as well, because at some point we might be too sure that Cochrane might be infiltrated by the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm not going to show one skeptic here. I'm going to respect the fact that the skeptics have every right to their ability to have a skeptics function. I'm a skeptic. They banned me from appearing. I was told this morning by one of them how well I behaved on the Friday. I didn't say a word. I introduced myself after the event to Ken Harvey, who I had a ticket he bought to my summit. I invited him to a private function with people that were aligned to my view that the level playing field should be adopted. I didn't have any problem with him coming and participating. I think it'd be a great thing. I had an excellent debate with one of the skeptic people. There were two beautiful women who talked to me for 20 minutes this morning outside the convention. They're happy to talk to me privately. I'm not going to tell you their names. I'm going to respect their names. And I appreciate that they were prepared to have a debate. And that was actually in relation to this incredible document that was on the Victorian website of Minister Hennessy, which is 100,000 vaccines will not affect the immune system of a child. Now, that may be a correct statement. I'm sceptical. I'm sceptical that that is a correct statement. I'm entitled to that scepticism, but there were two skeptics here that said, look, that could well be right, and they would like to have a dialogue. So I'm going to sign off here. I don't want to get into trouble and kicked out by security, so I'll finish up here and we'll talk in a safer place. And congratulations to skeptics. We need more of you, but you need to be more open-minded. And that includes Ken Harvey and the beautiful students that are applying Cochrane only to a limited batch of practitioners in the health arena. I'll be holding all of them accountable if this is the way Australia is going to be attacked, with a whack the mole program lectured to young, vulnerable students need to know the full story. So signing off, Graham Little, Nee Peter Pope at the National Convention of the Skeptics, www.fightpharmacorruption.com. You can go to my GoFundMe. I'm going to need a lot of money maybe for security guards perhaps. It's GoFundMe / I think Fight Pharma Corrupt, no I-O-N on the end. Fight Pharma, spelled P-H-A-R-M-A. If you'd like to put a few dollars in there, they'd be well received, because I want to print a lot of these documents. I did a lot of these today at Officeworks and handing them out, and they are expensive. I plan to go to the health department and hand them out in the street on Monday, perhaps tomorrow, and just see if other people can be sceptical. I'm a skeptic. 100,000 vaccines are a problem. I'm a skeptic. Risperdal is a problem for dementia. I'm skeptical of Ritalin being a problem for young adolescents. I'm skeptical about Risperdal being given to autistic children. Autistic children are given Risperdal when they're 2 or 3 years of age, and it's causing female breasts to grow on the male children. 2,000 lawsuits in the USA. I'm sceptical about a lot of other drugs that have been given in Australia without black box warnings. I'm going to bring all this to you because I'm sceptical, and I'm sceptical that the agenda on natural health practitioners is not fairly based. So without further ado, I won't extend my welcome any longer here, and I respect the skeptics. You should let me in. You need to be skeptical because your health may depend on it, and your family's health, and your partner, and your children, and your grandchildren. You might thank me one day, and maybe I will get the Skeptics Award. Thank you very much.